Hello everyone, this is Reverend Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to study paper 108, just this camera just a little bit, the mission of the thought adjusters. Mission and ministry of the thought adjusters. And that starts on page, starts on page 1185, and that's paper 108, 01. Okay. So we'll pray and we'll get started. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight to study this wonderful paper on the thought adjusters. We hope you open our hearts and our minds and bring this close to our hearts and bring you closer to us. Pray that we can share this with others, that they might benefit from this also. And we thank you for the opportunity to serve, and we pray that your will be done tonight in this meeting. In the name of your Son, Jesus, Amen. Amen. Okay. The mission and ministry of thought adjusters. The mission of the thought adjusters to the human races is to represent, to be the universal Father to the mortal creatures of time and space. That is the fundamental work of the divine gifts. Okay. Their mission is also that of elevating the mortal minds and of translating the immortal souls of men up to the divine heights and spiritual levels of paradise perfection. And in the experience of thus transforming the human nature of the temporal creature into the divine nature of the eternal finaliter, the adjusters bring into existence a unique type of being, a being consisting in the eternal union of the perfect adjuster and the perfected creature, which it would be impossible to duplicate by any other universe technique. So, basically, what this is saying is the thought adjuster.
Excuse me, Roger. I'm getting something kind of screeching.
Yeah, feedback from something.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear it now? Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Okay, so the thought adjuster basically is not only supposed to represent God the Father, but he's supposed to actually be the universal Father to us. Okay? And even though it's a Father fragment, that Father fragment becomes part of us in such an extent that it becomes us. Alright? By fusion. So basically it translates, the thought adjuster translates the souls of men to the spiritual levels of paradise. In other words, it transposes us to the level which we can function in paradise. You're going to have to get them off there to get it.
I know.
Yeah. Is the video still all right? Coming here to me?
I think so, except it's not on here.
Oh, let me switch up. We should have said something.
I was trying to get
So basically that it translates the immortal souls into a being that's ready for spiritual levels of paradise perfection, right? And it transforms us from a human or a temporal type creature to a finaliter, where after we meet God the Father, we stand before God the Father, we become what's called a finaliter, and we change into a totally immortal, different type of being, right? And this is a unique type of being because we came from a mortal existence to a spiritual existence. We weren't created as spiritual beings, we grow into this spiritual being. And according to this, it would be impossible to do this any other way other than this Father fragment that we're given this gift of, basically.
Yeah, this is so completely different from the way that I was raised. I thought we did it, I did it on my own, just kind of working on.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, I mean, there are a lot of.
It's really a partnership
It is a partnership.
between you and God.
And I felt that way when I was growing up. It's
Yeah.
just that, it's just very different.
Yeah, that actually gives us a little bit of meaning of why we are here.
Yeah.
We're a very unique creature, and there's no other way to produce what we will become without going through what we're doing today.
That's exactly
That's
right, Stephen.
yeah.
And and if you think about it, saying it that way, Stephen, the way you just did, it means that this is our eternal purpose, if you think about it, right? That's our purpose in life, is to follow the will of God and become these perfected creatures.
His plan is laid out so clearly.
So clear, it's ridiculous, isn't
That's wonderful.
it? Yeah. All right.
Well,
Yeah.
like Diane, growing up in church, I was taught that I was born with a soul.
Yes. But in reality, you create that soul, don't you, Rodney?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's created over time with this union of God and you. During this lifetime, you're building up the personality fragments of your new personality, and that soul emerges from that work you do on this earth, building up your personality. So the soul is created, and that's why it's so hard, even for the book, to describe what the human soul is, right? Because it's a creation that's very esoteric, because it's part God and it's part us, right? Not only that, but we have the influence of the Holy Spirit, right? And the Spirit of truth also that helps develop that soul character, right? Okay. Stephen, would you take this next paragraph, please?
Okay. Nothing in the entire universe can substitute for the fact of experience on non-experiential levels.
Existential levels.
Existential level. Okay.
Yeah.
The infinite God is, as always, replete and complete, infinitely inclusive of all things except evil and creature experience. God cannot do wrong. He is infallible. God cannot experientially know what he has never personally experienced. God's pre-knowledge is existential. Therefore, does the Spirit of the Father descend from paradise to participate with finite mortals in every bona fide experience of the ascending career? It is only by such a method that the existential God could become, in truth and in fact, man's experiential father. The infinity of the eternal God encompasses the potential for finite experience, which indeed becomes actual in the ministry of the adjuster fragments that actually share the life, the vicissitude experience of human beings.
Okay, so let's think about this for a minute. Experience is what we go through, right? And the experiences also goes into the supreme, right? And these are non-existential. What does that mean? Non-existential are things that have a beginning and have an end. These are non-existentials, right? Existentials have no beginning and no end. So if you think about it, God, from the beginning of eternity, it has always been existential. He's always been here and he always will be. The only way he can experience mortal existence or experientially know the things, what it is to be immortal is to give of himself a fragment of himself to go through these experiences with us. So, God experiences every single thing, thought, idea, moment that we experience at the same time. This gives him the mortal experience, right? Without this, he already knows what's going to happen, because it says right here that the Father, where does it say here? He already knows what's going to happen before it happens, right? Pre-knowledge, okay? God's pre-knowledge is existential. In other words, his pre-knowledge of what's going to happen is there throughout eternity. He already knows what's going to happen to us, okay? But the difference is this. He participates in our finite mortal life and helps spiritualize our thoughts so that he also can get that experiential part of our life himself. So it not only goes to the thought adjuster, but it goes to the Father fragment, but it goes to the Father infinite at the same time. Right?
And is that the Supreme also?
That's part of the Supreme also. Right? Gains that experience also. And it's interesting, the last sentence of this says the adjuster fragments that actually share the life vicissitude experiences of the human beings. In other words, it experiences every aspect of our life from beginning through the end. Right? And that continues on after we go to the mansion world. Right?
Daddy,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Which came first, the thought adjuster or the human being?
The thought adjuster. The thought adjuster, like God the Father, is existential. Okay? Because it's part of God.
It
So,
says like thought adjusters were not created, but came about for human beings.
for
Or
human,
vice versa.
for human beings, but they are actually fragments of God the Father, Rodney. So they are existential. They've always have been, always will be, because they're part of God the Father. Everything having to do with being part of God the Father always has been, always will be. So it becomes existential immediately. But he fragments himself for each and every human, right? So what's interesting is an existential part of God becomes part of us when we eventually fuse with the adjuster. So we go from being just experiential to, at fusion, we become what? Existential also. That's how we become part of deity. Right? Makes sense? It's so interesting. Man, I tell you what, you can't stress how much this book enlightens your life. You know? It's just amazing. Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
1. Selection and assignment. When adjusters are dispatched for mortal service from Divinington, they are identical in the endowment of existential divinity, but they vary in experiential qualities, proportional to previous contact in and with evolutionary creatures. We cannot explain the basis of adjuster assignment, but we conjecture that these divine gifts are bestowed in accordance with some wise and efficient policy of eternal fitness of adaptation to the indwelt personality. We do observe that the more experienced adjuster is often the indweller, of the higher type of human mind. Human inheritance must therefore be a considerable factor in determining selection and assignment.
All right, this is interesting. They say that human inheritance, therefore, must be a considerable factor. In other words, what we inherit both culturally from our family, from our race, from every aspect of what makes us who we are, physically, varies from person to person, right? So the adjusters choose us apparently from what they're insinuating. So they know our background of our family, our history, our race, everything that's happened to us before we were born, really. All of our DNA, our history of our DNA, everything. So they choose individually to become part of us, which is really interesting because there's so many variations of human personality, right? So talk about divine gifts. But it says here, we conjecture that the divine gifts are bestowed in accordance to some wise and efficient policy. Eternal fitness of the adaptation of the indwelt personality. But they don't even know what that is. So the solitary messenger that's relating us to this knows no more than we do about how this selection is made, right? He does say that they're dispatched from Divinington, and we know that's the Father's satellite, right? And all Father fragments are types of being that get any type of Father fragment comes from Divinington, right? Remember last week we talked about how once we fuse with our Father adjuster, then the new home is what? Ascendington, right? Which is another satellite, all right? Sweetie? Oh,
Although we do not definitely know, we firmly believe that all thought adjusters are volunteers. But before ever they volunteer, they are in possession of full data respecting the candidate for indwelling. Seraphic drafts of ancestry and projected patterns of life conduct are transmitted via Paradise to the reserve corps of adjusters on Divinington by the reflectivity technique extending inward from the capitals of the local universes to the headquarters of the super-universes. This forecast covers not only the hereditary antecedents of the mortal candidate, but also the estimate of probable intellectual endowment and spiritual capacity. The adjusters thus volunteers when dwell minds of whose intimate natures they have been fully apprised.
so they know before they come here how backward we are, right? And can you imagine how disappointing it must be to the adjuster and God the Father when you fail to listen to your adjuster and try to follow the will of God and you do not survive?
Well, what I think of when I read this before, what about serial killers? They're already programmed for that in their brains. So, and so how would a thought adjuster choose to be indwelt in something?
Well, he tries to change them in that he tries to spiritualize their life.
So it has to be someone that's.
But once you embrace evil, which is not part of God the Father, can you imagine an adjuster being imprisoned in a mind that's totally evil?
I
horrible
can't,
thing.
but I just know that
Yeah.
maybe at 5 years old, and that person
Embraces
has
evil.
evolved,
Yeah.
as a result of his physiology, as a result of the DNA. I don't know. That's hard to
I've
understand.
thought of that often. And
Yeah, yeah, because there's some people that have a propensity for evil, and certainly Hitler was one of them, but he's an extreme. But there are everyday people that have dysfunctional brains.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe at that point, the thought adjuster kind of fades out of their life, so to speak, because he's not able to work with them. So,
Well-
you can actually chase that thought adjuster away from you.
Well, yeah, they can, thought adjuster can be released from an individual when they made a final irrevocable decision not to survive or to embrace evil. And so, but it has to be verified by the guardian angel in charge of that particular person also. So if the guardian angel and the thought adjuster are in agreement 100% that this individual will, there's no way this individual will survive, then the adjuster is released. So, and there's probably people walking around this planet right now that, we'll talk about this under the personality paper, that are spiritually dead. Their human body keeps going, but spiritually they're dead. So they just keep functioning as a human being, but not a spiritual.
Well, certainly as an extreme case would be someone like Hitler.
Yeah.
And his
Yeah. Evil.
comrades.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's keep moving. I think you're up here. Did you just read there? Okay, well, I'm up there.
Yeah.
The volunteering adjuster is particularly interested in 3 qualifications of the human candidate. 1, the intellectual capacity. Is the mind normal? What is the intellectual potential, the intelligence capacity? Can the individual develop into a bona fide will creature that can make decisions? Will wisdom have the opportunity to function? That's the first thing to concerned with. Second, spiritual perception. The prospects of the reverential development, the birth and growth of the religious nature. What is the potential of soul? The probable spiritual capacity of receptivity. That would be very important too. 3, combined intellectual and spiritual powers. The degree to which these 2 endowments may possibly be associated, combined so as to produce strength of human character and contribute to the certain evolution of an immortal soul of survival values. And these are the 3 qualifications that each adjuster wants to know about each candidate. And they get this information from what? Their family background, their race background, the personality background of their previous family, and that sort of thing. So it shows how much capacity they have for survival. All right? Let's see.
Okay.
Stephen.
With these facts before them, it is our belief that the monitors freely volunteer for assignment. Probably more than one adjuster volunteers. Perhaps the supervising, personalized orders select. From this group of volunteering adjusters, the one best suited to the task of spiritualizing and eternalizing the personality of the mortal candidate. In the assignment and service of the adjuster, the sex of the creature is of no consideration.
So they don't care if you're male or female or whatever, because as we progress to the mansion worlds, that becomes less and less important whatsoever, right? So they basically will volunteer for a male or a female or any type of beings. They're only concerned with the 3 previous things we just talked about, right? And this is the little picture here. I don't know if there's a trailer at this point. Sure. And this is a picture of a representation of the adjuster training schools in Divinington, right? And you notice up there is a symbol too. And let me read the bottom of this because it's too small for you to read. 1, Divinington, this world is in a unique sense, the bosom of the Father, the personal communion sphere of the universal Father, and is thereon is a special manifestation of his divinity. Divinington is the paradise rendezvous of the thought adjuster, but is also the home of numerous other entities, personalities, and other beings taking origin in the universal Father. So there are other entities, fragments of the universal Father, that are not assigned to mortals, right? That's what I wanted to make out of that. apparently. These are beings that are not involved with our ascension plan. So, here we go. All right, Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
The short time intervening between the volunteering and the actual dispatch of the adjuster is presumably spent in the Divinington schools and the personalized monitors, where a working pattern of the waning mortal mind is utilized in instructing the assigned adjuster as to the most effective cause for personality growth and mind spiritualization. This mind model is formulated through combination of data supplied by the Superuniverse Reflectivity Service. At least this is our understanding. A belief which we hold as the result of putting together information secured by contact with many personalized adjusters throughout the long universe careers of the solitary messenger.
So they make these assumptions from the information they got from personalized adjusters and working with them as solitary messengers. It's interesting how they come up with information, some of this information. Okay, Diane.
Steve,
You just read it.
sorry, Steve.
Yeah.
Once the adjusters are actually dispatched from Divinington, practically no time intervenes between that moment and the hour of their appearance in the minds of their chosen subjects. The average transit time of an adjuster from Divinington to Urantia is 117 hours, 42 minutes, and 7 seconds. Virtually all of this time is occupied with registration on the person.
So that's at the Orvantum, the super universe capital, Uversa. It's where they register in, and all this travel time is they're stopped there to get registered that they're going to a planet, right?
Roger.
Yeah.
So we've got to keep in mind a human being receives an adjuster at about 5 years old.
Yeah, about 5 years, 10 months, a few days. So almost.
There is a working model, an actual experience of this human being, for 5 years.
Yeah, that's correct. There is. And they can get this information through reflectivity circuit, right? At any time. So they know how the subject is progressing before they get there. And it's going to tell us in this paper a little bit, as soon as the local universe mother spirit registers the first moral decision, they are immediately are dispatched. So that's pretty interesting, right? All right. Diane?
I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, I didn't just read.
Did you?
I think I did. No, I did.
Oh, it's my turn.
Yes,
Sorry.
sir.
I'm sorry, y'all. I get talking enough.
We're
to
slightly spacey tonight.
Yeah. Overtired.
Yeah, we're really tired.
Prerequisites of adjuster indwelling. Though the adjusters volunteer for service as soon as the personality forecasts have been relayed to Divinington, they are not actually assigned until the human subjects make their first moral personality decision. The first moral choice of the human child is automatically indicated in the seventh mind adjutant, it's the local universe creative spirit, right? And registers instantly by the local universe creative spirit over the universal mind gravity circuit of the conjoint actor in the presence of the master spirit of the universe jurisdiction, super universe jurisdiction, who forthwith dispatches the intelligence to Divinington. Adjusters reach their human subjects on Urantia on an average just prior to the 6th birthday. In the present generation, it is running 5 years, 10 months, and 4 days. That is on the 2,134th day of terrestrial life. That's the average. It's interesting to know that to that detail, how close it is. All right.
Okay. The adjuster cannot invade the mortal mind until it has been duly prepared by the indwelling ministry of the adjutant mind spirit and inserted
Yeah.
into the Holy Spirit. And it requires the coordinated function of all 7 adjutants, who thus qualify the human mind for the reception of an adjuster. Creature mind must exhibit the worship, outreach, and indicate wisdom function by exhibiting the ability to choose between the emerging values of good and evil, moral choice.
So what did that tell us? That tells us it's very important to train our children at a very, very, very young age the difference between good and evil, moral choices, and what God the Father is. Right? Because they need to know these things for all 7 of the adjutants to be functioning. Right? So if a child does not think or contemplate God or make a moral decision between good and evil, they are retarded in receiving their thought adjustment. You see that? Because all 7 adjutants must be functioning. And the only way they can have it is if they know about it. Right?
That's why it's so important to, to raise your children, your babies, in some kind of spiritual environment.
Yeah.
You're not a church-going person. Children need to be raised in
They
some kind
do.
of institution or something.
And the best way to raise them is with this book.
Absolutely.
Best way in the world to do it. Okay. Rodney, would you take the next one?
Thus is the stage of the human mindset for the reception of adjusters. But as a general rule, they do not immediately appear to indwell such minds, except in those worlds where the Spirit of Truth is functioning as a spiritual coordinator of these different spirit ministries. With this spirit of the pastoral sons is present, the adjusters unfailingly come the instant the 7th adjutant mind spirit begins to function and symbolizes to the universe mother spirit that it has achieved in potential the coordination of the associated 6 adjutants of prime ministry to such a moral intellect. Therefore, have the divine adjusters been universally bestowed upon all normal minds of moral status on Urantia ever since the day of Pentecost.
You see the importance of the coming of the Spirit of Truth? And the Spirit of Truth does not come to all beings until when? Until a Son of God has made a bestowal on a planet. Okay? Up to that time, the Spirit of Truth will only come to those individuals who consciously seek God. Okay? Not just a moral decision, but consciously seek God. So before Pentecost, those men and women who in their lives consciously just made a decision to follow the Father's will or to seek God, then they would receive a thought adjuster. But that was the only time they would receive a thought adjuster, is if they made that conscious decision. After Pentecost, though, when the Spirit of Truth was poured out on all flesh, at that point, everyone has the Spirit of Truth poured upon them. You don't have to go out and search for it. I see these preachers, saw one this week on the TV, saying, have you been baptized by the Spirit of Truth? Okay? And their concept of being baptized by the Spirit of Truth is speaking in tongues. Okay? That's not how the Spirit of Truth works. The Spirit of Truth was poured out on all mankind, whether you were religious or not. And this Spirit of Truth allowed all the thought adjusters to indwell all children by the age of about 6 years old. All of them, not just those who were searching for God, but all of them. So they were baptized, as John the Baptist said, Jesus was bringing the baptism of the Spirit. That's exactly what he did on Pentecost. He baptized all men in the Spirit of truth. Not just those that were looking for it, but all men. Okay? So if someone tells you if you don't speak in tongues, you haven't been baptized in the Spirit of truth, I'll tell them that they're wrong. Okay? The Spirit of truth was a gift from Christ. The Spirit of truth was a gift from our Creator Son, the bestowal Son on the planet. And that's the way it works on every planet. That when a Son of God has finished his bestowal, his gift of leaving is the bestowal of the Spirit of truth. And you don't have to ask for it, it's already there. Okay? That's a pretty good preaching for tonight. I think I'm done. No, I'm joking.
That was well said. That's what.
And that's the way it works. That's the way it is.
Here,
Okay.
June 20, 2018.
2018. And if they ask you who said it, you can tell them I said it. Take it up with me. All right. A lot of churches won't like that because they think they have to speak
They're
in
not
tongues.
listening to us.
Huh? You're not listening to this anymore. Okay. Let's go on.
It's having a
No,
hard
no,
time doing that.
I'm having a hard time with this completely. Okay. Rodney? Is Rodney ready?
No, Rodney.
Diane's turn.
Huh? Diane's turn. Okay.
Thank you.
You are supposed to keep
I need
track
help
of this.
tonight.
Yeah.
Even with the spirit of truth endowed mind, the adjusters cannot arbitrarily invade the immortal intellect prior to the appearance of moral decision. But when such a moral decision has been made, the spirit helper assumes jurisdiction direct from the
Divinington.
Divinington. There are no intermediaries or other intervening authorities or powers functioning between the divine adjusters and the human subjects. God and man are directly related.
At that moment, right? They're directly related. They're put together. They're betrothed, right? What does betrothal mean?
You don't have to go through the middleman.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Before the times of the pouring out of spiritual truth on the inhabitants of the evolutionary world, the adjuster's bestowal appears to be determined by many spirit influences and personality attitudes. But we do not fully comprehend the law governing such bestowals. We do not understand just what determines the release of adjusters who have volunteered to indwell such evolving minds. But we do observe numerous influences and conditions which appear to be associated with the arrival of the adjuster in such minds prior to the bestowal of the Spirit of truth. And they are. This is what I was just talking about a minute ago. There's a list of them.
One, the assignment of personal seraphic.
Seraphic.
Pardon?
Seraphic.
Seraphic guardians. If a mortal has not been previously indwelt by an adjuster, the assignment of a personal guardian brings the adjuster forthwith. There exists some very definite but unknown relation between the ministry of adjusters and the ministry of personal seraphic guardians.
Okay, so before the Spirit of truth was poured out on all men, if someone warranted having a personal guardian assigned to them, and when is that? When you reach the third psychic level. You're automatically assigned a personal seraphic guardian. If they haven't been given a thought adjuster before that point, the bringing on of the seraphic guardian also brings on the thought adjuster. That's the first one. Okay, number 2, right?
2. The attainment of the third circle of intellectual achievement and spiritual attainment. I have observed adjusters arrive in mortal minds upon the conquest of the third circle even before such an accomplishment could be signalized to the local universe personalities concerned with such matters.
That's what we just mentioned was the third circle, right? And then the Seraphic garden is assigned to you, right? So if you reach that third circle, of course, you will receive the adjuster. Okay? Right?
Upon the making of a supreme decision of unusual spiritual import, such human behavior in a personal planetary crisis usually is attended by the immediate arrival of the waiting adjuster.
What kind of spiritual import decision would that be? If you personally decided at any moment growing up that you were going to follow the will of God regardless of what else you did, would you call that an unusual spiritual import decision? Or let's say you were Moses and you decided to lead the Jewish children out of Egypt. Do you think that would not bring on a adjuster? Because you were going to lead a group of beings to a better spiritual situation. So many things like that can happen in a life that would cause that adjuster to come. Right? All right. 4. The spirit of brotherhood, regardless of the attainment of the psychic circles, whether you reach the third circle or not, right? And the assignment of a personal guardian in the absence of anything resembling a crisis decision, when an evolving mortal becomes dominated by the love of his fellows and consecrated to unselfish ministry to his brethren in the flesh, the awaiting adjuster unverily descends to indwell the minds of such a mortal minister. So when you decide for any reason that you're going to dedicate your life to your fellow brothers and sisters in the flesh, that adjuster is going to ascend anyway because you put all other beings ahead of yourself. Right? What would be a good example of that? If you decided you were called to preach, for instance, would you say that would be a decision to put all other beings before yourself? Because you want to dedicate your life to doing the will of God, right? Okay.
Roger, I think of the great Indian Tecumseh.
Oh, that's a great example, Roger. It really is. He chose to put his people above all else, didn't he? So, that's a great example of that kind of decision. All right. Stephen, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. Declaration of intention to do the will of God. We observe that many mortals on the worlds of space may be apparently in readiness to receive adjustments, and yet the monitors do not appear. We go on watching such creatures as they live from day to day, and presently they quietly, almost unconsciously, arrive at the decision to begin the pursuit of the doing of the will of the Father in heaven. And then we observe the immediate dispatch of the thought adjusters.
Okay, now remember, these are beings before Pentecost or on other planets, before they've had the Spirit of truth poured out on their planet. So what they're talking about, as soon as someone makes the declaration of the intention to do the will of God, then a thought adjuster is assigned to it, right? Just that intention signals God the Father that you intend to follow His will. So how will you know what His will is? The thought adjuster comes and helps you find out what that will is, right? Helps speak to you. All right.
I'm ready.
There we go. Okay.
Okay, 6. Influence of the Supreme Being. On worlds where the adjusters not fuse with the evolving souls of the lower inhabitants, we observe adjusters sometimes bestowed in response to influences which are wholly beyond our comprehension. We conjecture that such bestowals are determined by some cosmic reflex action originating and the Supreme Being. As to why these adjusters cannot or do not fuse with these certain types of evolving mortal minds, we do not know. Such transactions have never been revealed to us.
So adjusters can be assigned by the Supreme Being, and these may be for beings that can't fuse with the adjusters, but they're still assigned adjusters. Okay? So, and remember, these are what? Usually version adjusters, and they're not going to fuse with these individuals, so they go out to them for the experience, right, of helping these individuals out. What a wonderful system our universe is. Okay, so let's get that to the slide. Here we go.
3, organization and administration. As far as we know, adjusters are organized as an independent working unit in the universe of universes, and are apparently administered directly from Divinington. They are uniform throughout the 7 super-universes, all local universes being served by identical types of mystery monitors. We do know from observation that there are numerous series of adjusters involving a serial organization that extends through races, over dispensations, and to world systems and universes. It is, however, exceedingly difficult to keep track of these divine gifts, since they function interchangeably throughout the grand universe.
So they're specialized for each group of types of people, types of races. It goes on and on and on and on. The type of planet they're on, and everything. So, adjusters of complete record outside of Divinington, only on the headquarters of the 7 super universes. In other words, their complete records are only complete only on the headquarters of the 7 super universes. The number and order of each adjuster indwelling each ascending creature are reported out by the paradise authorities to the headquarters of the super universes, and from there they are communicated to the headquarters of the local universes concerned and relayed to that particular planet involved. But the local universe records do not disclose the full number of the thought adjusters. The Nebadon records contain only the local universe assignment number as designated by the representatives of the Ancients of Days. The real significance of the adjuster's complete number is known only on Divinington. So it's only on Divinington that the complete record of all adjusters is involved.
Roger,
Yeah.
an adjuster number is the same as the adjuster's name.
No, it's not, Rodney. The number is assigned by the type and place for going and that sort of thing. The name of the adjuster will not be known until he is fused with a human being, and at that point they are named. It becomes our new name and the adjuster's new name in concert, right? So until then, they have names that are all unknown. No one knows what they are. They're probably names to each other. But they all have numbers associated with which universe they go to, which local universe, and I'm sure that's just for record tracking more than anything else, right? So, but I'm sure that if you could carry on a conversation with your adjuster, he would not give you his number, right? It would be of no spiritual use to you, right?
I understand.
Yeah. Okay. What do we got? Oh, Stephen, I believe.
Okay. Human subjects are often known by the numbers of their adjusters. Mortals do not receive real universal names until after adjuster fusion, which union is signalized by the bestowal of the new name upon the new creature by the destiny guardian.
Okay, and that's done.
I'll wait for the next paragraph.
Oh, that's right. new names will refuse, right? Rodney.
Though we have the records of thought adjusters in early time, and though we have absolutely no authority over them or administrative connection with them, we firmly believe that there is a very close administrative connection between the individual wills of the local universes and the central lodgment of the divine gifts and Divinington. We do know that, following the appearance of a paradise bestowing sun, an evolutionary world has a personalized adjuster assigned to it as the planetary supervisor of adjusters.
And who is that adjuster? That was the adjuster for that bestowal sun. When the bestowal sun leaves the planet, the adjuster remains behind and normally is personalized, so that bestowal sun's adjuster becomes the chief of the adjusters of that particular planet. Right? You want to know what we're going to learn when we get to the mansion worlds about super universe administration? This sort of thing is what we have to know, right? Because we want to be prepared to go out into outer space and do the same thing, right? So, always more to learn.
It is interesting to note that local universe inspectors always address themselves when carrying out a planetary examination to the planetary chief of thought adjusters, just as they deliver charges to the chiefs of Seraphim and to the leaders of other orders of beings attached to the administration of an evolving world. Not long since, Urantia underwent such a periodic inspection by Tabamantia, the sovereign supervisor of all life experimental planets in the universe of Nebon. And the records reveal that in addition to his
Admonitions.
admonitions and indictments delivered to the various chiefs of superhuman personalities, he also delivered the following acknowledgement to the chief of adjusters, whether located on the planet on Salminton, Reversa, or Divinington. We do not definitely know, but he said,
Now to you supervisors far above me, superiors far above me. I come as one placed in temporary authority over the experiential planetary series, and I come to express admiration and profound respect for this magnificent group of celestial ministers, the mystery monitors, who have volunteered to serve on this irregular sphere. No matter how trying the crisis, you never falter. Not on the records of Nebadon, nor before the commissions of Orvanton has there ever been offered an indictment of a divine adjuster. You have been true to your trust. You have been divinely faithful. You have helped to adjust the mistakes and compensate for the shortcomings of all who labor on this confused planet. You are marvelous beings, guardians of the good of the souls of this backward realm. I pay you respect even while you are apparently under my jurisdiction as volunteer ministers. I bow before you in humble recognition of your exquisite unselfishness, your understanding ministry, and your impartial devotion. You deserve the name of the godlike servers of the mortal inhabitants of this strife-torn, grief-stricken, and disease-afflicted world. I honor you, I all but worship you. Well, what else could be said, about that? Impressive.
As a result of many suggested lines of evidence, We believe that the adjusters are thoroughly organized, that there exists a profoundly intelligent and efficient directive administration of these divine gifts from some far distant and central source, probably Divinington. We know that they come from Divinington to the worlds, and undoubtedly they return thereto upon the deaths of their subjects.
They come and go from there, right? Rodney, take the next one.
Among the higher spirit winners, it is exceedingly difficult to discover the mechanisms of administration. My order of personalities, now engaged in the prosecution of our specific duties, is undoubtedly unconsciously participating with numerous other personnel and impersonal subdeity groups who unitedly are functioning as far-flung universe correlators. We suspect that we are thus serving because we are the only group of personalized creatures, aside from personalized adjusters, who are uniformly conscious of the presence of numerous orders of the pre-personal entities.
They're talking about solitary messengers here, is who's talking, right? And as the solitary messengers go around doing their specific duties, they're conscious of these other personal and impersonal subdeity groups, right? And they all work in unison as universe correlators to bring the universe working properly, right? And he said they believe they're serving as they are because they're the only group, aside from the adjusters, who are conscious and can recognize all the different numerous orders of these pre-personal entities. So they're the only ones that can see these besides the adjusters themselves, personalized adjusters themselves, right?
We are aware of the presence of the adjusters who are fragments of the pre-personal deity of the first source and center. We sense the presence of the inspired Trinity spirits, who are super-personal expressions of the Paradise Trinity. We likewise unfailingly detect the spirit presence of certain unrevealed orders springing from the eternal Son and the Infinite Spirit. And we are not wholly unresponsive to still other entities unrevealed to you.
So there's many other entities they don't tell us about because they have nothing to do with our ascension plan right now, right? The Melchizedeks of Nebanon teach that the solitary messengers are the personality coordinators of these various influences as they register in the expanding deity of the evolutionary supreme being. It is very possible that we may be participants in the experiential unification of many of the unexplained phenomena of time, but we are not consciously certain of this functioning. So even beings on this level are not 100% sure of how everything functions like this, right? Relation to other spiritual influences. Apart from possible coordination with other deity fragments, the adjusters are quite alone in their sphere of activity in the mortal mind. The misty monitors eloquently bespeak the fact that though the Father may have apparently resigned the exercise of all direct personal power and authority throughout the grand universe, notwithstanding this act of abnegation in behalf of the supreme creator children of the paradise deities, the Father has certainly reserved to himself the unchallengeable right to be present in the minds and souls of his evolving creatures, to the end that he may so act as to draw all creation to himself, coordinately with the spiritual gravity of the paradise sons. Set your paradise soul son, while yet on Urantia. If I am lifted up, will draw all men. This spiritual drawing power of the paradise sons and their creative associates we recognize and understand, but we do not so fully comprehend the methods of the all-wise Father's functioning in and through these mystery monitors that live and work so valiantly within the human mind. I could talk about this paragraph for hours, but I'm going to try to make it really short. Basically, the Father himself has reserved the right to inhabit every mortal creature in all 7 super universes. Okay, and only he has that right. The spiritual drawing power from all creatures in each local universe comes from what? The Creator sons. And they get their spiritual drawing power from whom? The Paradise Son, the original Son of the Trinity. Okay? So their drawing power, as Jesus says, if I am lifted up, will draw all men. His drawing power comes from the eternal Son. Okay? But even he does not have the right to inhabit all creatures like the thought adjuster too. The Spirit of truth is a superposition on top of the adjuster, right? Unlike the adjuster that indwells the mortal mind. We could spend hours explaining just that one concept. We don't have the time to do it. So move on to the next one. Stephen, would you take the next one?
Okay. While not subordinate to, coordinate with, or apparently related to the work of the universe of universes, though acting independently in the minds of the children of men, unceasingly do these mysterious presence urge the creatures of their indwelling for divine ideals, always luring them upward toward the purposes and aims of a future and better life. These mystery monitors are continually assisting in the establishment of the spiritual dominion of Michael throughout the universe of Nebadon, while mysteriously contributing to the stabilization of the sovereignty of the Ancients of Days in Overtron.
Orlanton.
No. The adjusters are the will of God, and since the supreme creator children of God also personally embody that same will, it is inevitable that the actions of adjusters and the sovereignty of the universe rulers should be mutually interdependent, though apparently unconnected. The Father presence of the adjusters and the Father sovereignty of Michael of Nebadon must be diverse manifestations of the same divinity.
So the Father fragment and the sovereignty of Michael, or Jesus as we know him, is the same manifestation of divinity. In other words, Jesus' divinity is the same divinity coming from the Father. Okay? So Jesus represents God the Father on this planet and in this local universe. But that does not take away from the fact that the Father himself is represented in each and every one of this as the mystery monitors or the thought adjusters. Right? Right. All right. Rodney.
Excuse me. Thought adjusters appear to come and go quite independent of any and all other spiritual presence. they seem to function in accordance with universal laws quite apart from those which govern and control the performances of all other spirit influences. But regardless of such apparent independence, long-range observation unquestionably discloses that they function in the human mind in perfect
Synchrony.
harmony and coordination with all other spirit ministries, including adjutant mind spirits, Holy Spirit, Spirit of Truth, and other influences.
There you go. So they work all together in unison, don't they? What a great system. All right, dear.
When the world is isolated by rebellion, when a planet is cut off from all outside circulative communication, as was Urantia after the Caligastia period, aside from personal messengers, there remains but one possibility of direct interplanetary or universe communication, and that is through the liaison of the adjusters of the spheres. No matter what happens on a world or in a universe, the adjusters are never directly concerned. The isolation of a planet in no way affects the adjusters and their ability to communicate with any part of the local universe, super-universe, or the central universe. And this is the reason why contact with the supreme and the self-acting adjusters of the reserve core of destiny are so frequently made on quarantine worlds. Recourse is had to such a technique as a means of circumventing the handicaps of planetary isolation. In recent years, the Archangel Circuit has functioned on Urantia. That means of communication is largely limited to the transactions of the Archangel Core itself.
This paragraph is the most assuring paragraph in the book for us individually. Why is that? It tells us that the adjusters, number one, are always in communication with the Father because they are the Father, right? So regardless of what happens in the universe and how we're cut off from all the other planets like the rebellion caused and all such things, we're still not cut off because we have the communication of the adjusters with the Father because they are the Father. So we're always in communication with God the Father, right? And it talks here in this paragraph about the adjusters of the reserve core of destiny, and it is the same adjusters in which this book was revealed to us. Okay? So this tells us even though we are a isolated planet and we've been in quarantine for God knows how long, we're still not apart from God the Father because God the Father, through Jesus, just determined that it was time for a revelation for this planet, and that's how we got this book. Okay? People said, how did this book get here? Well, it's hard to explain to them. It came through the Reserve Corps of Destiny, an adjuster of someone who's a member of the Reserve Corps of Destiny, because we can't explain in 5 words what a Reserve Corps of Destiny is, right? So it makes it kind of hard to communicate. But it does also tell us that the Archangel Circuit has been functioning on this planet, so we really are not that isolated from the rest of the universe. It's just we don't receive the universe broadcast and we can't personally see what's going on around the rest of the universe. We have to get that information through our thought adjusters. And if we're not in tune with God the Father, you think we're going to get that? No. Not likely. Alright, so everything has a purpose. Everything works out for a purpose. Okay. Alright. We are cognizant of many spirit phenomena in the far-flung universe which we are lost fully to understand. We are not yet masters of all that is transpiring about us, and I believe that much of this inscrutable work was wrought by the gravity messengers and certain types of mystery monitors. I do not believe that adjusters are devoted solely to the remaking of mortal minds. I am persuaded that the personalized monitors and other orders of unrevealed pre-personal spirits are representative of the Universal Father's direct and unexplained contact with the creatures of the realm. So they believe there's other beings involved directly from the Father that's also involved in keeping the universe functioning properly, right? All right. Next, Stephen.
Okay. Okay, are we on the right page here?
Not yet.
Five.
One second, my cat just jumped. Computer.
You good?
Going back.
One
Let me
second.
come over and help you.
I don't know.
Oh.
It's today, it says the video of water.
I know he's gonna do that. I'll do that too.
Sorry.
Oh,
Don't do that.
okay.
This the right one?
Yep, that's the right one.
Okay. The adjuster's mission. The adjusters, it's a difficult assignment when they volunteer to indwell such composite beings as live on Urantia. But they have assumed the task of existing in your minds, there to receive the admonition of the spiritual intelligence of the realms, and then to undertake to rededicate,
Yeah.
or translate these spiritual messages to the material mind. They are indispensable to the paradise ascension.
So the superconscious mind is receiving these messages that the thought adjuster has received from the universe communications. Okay, so unknowingly we are in touch with the entire universe at all times. But it's given to us in our superconscious mind, which we don't hear, right? It's just given to us in our mind for our soul growth, right? Right? Rodney.
What the thought adjuster cannot realize in the present life, those truths which he cannot successfully transmit to the man of his betrothal, he will faithfully preserve for use in the next stage of existence, just as he now carries over from circle to circle those items which he fails to register in the experience of the human subject, owing to the creature's inability or failure to give a sufficient degree of cooperation.
So depending on how much we cooperate with our thought adjusters, and the message from our thought adjusters is how much we can use that information in this life, and those messages which we cannot use in this life, he saves for us when we get to the dimension worlds, and we will receive those messages in the dimension worlds for our benefit there. So nothing is ever lost in the universe. All right. Item.
One thing you can depend upon, the adjusters will never lose anything committed to their care. Never have we known these spirit helpers to befall. Angels and other high types of spirit beings, not accepting the local universe type of sons, may occasionally embrace evil, may sometimes depart from the divine way, but adjusters never falter. They are absolutely dependable, and this is equally true of all seven groups.
So unlike groups of universe sons like Lucifer, Urantia, Divinington sons, things like that were in administration, Lucifer, Satan, Caligastra, those types of universe signs can default. They can choose to default. But the thought adjusters will never default. And why is that? They are God. They are part of God. They're a piece of God, right? So they will never default, right? Even though the other types of sons may embrace evil, the adjusters never will. We have never had that to worry about. Your adjuster is the potential of your new and next order of existence, the advanced bestowal of your eternal sonship with God. By and with the consent of your will, the adjuster has the power to subject creature trends to the material mind, to transforming actions of the motivations and purposes of the emerging Urantia soul. So by your consent, they have the power to transform your material mind to more spiritual thinking and Urantia modal for your Urantia soul and the next level. All right. Stephen, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. The mystery monitors are not thought helpers. They are thought adjusters. They labor with the material mind for the purpose of constructing, by adjustment and spiritualization, a new mind for the new worlds and the new name of your future career. Their mission chiefly concerns the future of life, not this life. They are called heavenly helpers, not earthly helpers. They are not interested in making the mortal career easy. Rather, are they concerned in making your life reasonably difficult and rugged, so that decisions will be stimulated and multiplied. The presence of a great thought adjuster does not bestow ease of living and freedom from strenuous thinking, but such a divine gift should confer a sublime peace of mind and a superb tranquility of spirit.
So if you're looking for a life of ease, don't look to your thought. This is not the way to get it. The thought adjuster will not give it to you. It wants you to go through struggles so you can grow. That's why you're on this planet, right? So if you think to yourself, well, this life is so difficult and so hard and all that, and woe is me, your adjuster will not listen to your complaint. I'm sorry. That's why you're here, to learn, right? All right.
Yeah, they make it more difficult.
They do. If your life is hard, it's because God loves you, right?
Right.
Look at it that way. All right.
Like little gremlins.
Rodney, would you take the next one?
Your transient and ever-changing emotions of joy and sorrow are in the main purely human and material reactions to your internal psychic climate and to your external material environment. Do not, therefore, look to the adjuster for selfish consolation and moral comfort. It is the business of the adjuster to prepare you for the eternal adventure, to assure your survival. It is not the mission of the mystery monitor to smooth your ruffled feelings or to minister to your injured pride. It is the preparation of your soul for the long ascending career that engages the attention and occupies the time of the adjuster.
So it's stuff that's for your own good that it's concerned with, right? Not petty little things in your life that mean nothing. Okay? And that's what many things in life mean, is absolutely nothing. Right? Diane.
I doubt that I'm able to explain to you just what the adjusters do in your minds and for your souls. I do not know that I am fully cognizant of what is really going on in the cosmic association of a divine monitor and human mind. It is all somewhat of a mystery to us, not as to the plan plan and purpose, but as to the actual mode of accomplishment. And this is just why we are confronted with such difficulty in finding an appropriate name for these supernal gifts to mortal men.
All right. So they're confused about some of it as we are.
There's a lot of sorrow.
Huh?
There's a lot of sorrow.
There is a lot of sorrow in this book, period, because of the situation of man that we're in. You know, it's just the way it is, and we have to accept it and move on, right? The thought adjusters would like to change your feelings to fear
Of fear.
of fear.
Not
Thank you.
too fear.
Thank you, dear. To convictions of love and confidence, but they cannot mechanically and arbitrarily do such things. That is your task. In executing those decisions which deliver you from the fetters of fear, you literally supply the psychic fulcrum on which the adjuster may subsequently apply a spiritual level of uplifting and advancing illumination. You want to know what this book's about? Read that last two words. Advancing illumination. That's what this book is about, right?
When it comes to the sharp and well-defined conflicts between the higher and lower tendencies of the races, between what really is right and wrong, not merely what you may call right and wrong, you can depend upon it that the adjuster will always participate in some definite and active manner in such experiences. The fact that such adjusters' activity may be unconscious to a human partner does not in the least detract from its value and reality.
There you go. Just because it's unconscious does not mean that it's not valuable, right? And
If you have a personal guardian of destiny, plus your prayer of survival, that guardian angel must be adjudicated in order to receive vindication as to the faithful execution of her trust. But thought adjusters are not thus subjected to examination when their subjects fail to survive. We all know that while an angel might possibly fall short of the perfection of ministry, thought adjusters work in the manner of paralyzed perfection. Their ministry is characterized by a flawless technique which is beyond the possibility of criticism by any being outside of Divinington. You have perfect guides. Therefore, is the goal of perfection certainly attainable.
that says it all. You've got a perfect guide, so you have all you need to continue on, right, to perfection. All right.
Six, God and man. It is indeed a marvel of divine compensation for the exalted and perfect adjusters to offer themselves for actual existence in the lives of material creatures, such as the mortals of Urantia, really to consummate a probationary union with the animal origin beings of earth.
You understand that? They're really coming down to be with us, the thought adjusters. You know, because you think of God within a human, even the concept of that, how can something that great come down to human beings is just beyond comprehension in itself, right? No matter what the previous status of the inhabitants of a world, subsequent to the bestowal of a divine Son, and after the bestowal of the Spirit of truth upon all humans, the adjusters flock to such a world to indwell the minds of all normal will creatures. following the completion of the mission of the Paradise Bestowal Son, these mystery monitors truly become the kingdom of heaven within you. Through the bestowal of the divine gifts of the Father makes the closest possible approach to sin and evil, for it is literally true that the adjuster must coexist in the mortal mind, even in the very midst of the human unrighteousness. The indwelling adjusters are particularly tormented by those thoughts which are purely sordid or selfish. They are distressed by irreverence for that which is beautiful and divine, and they are virtually thwarted in their work by many of men's foolish animal fears and childish anxieties. Think of this for a second. Do you think once the Spirit of truth is poured out upon the world and the thought adjuster exists in every normal mind, do you think those normal minds could be invaded by evil spirits? No. There's no way that evil and perfection can exist within the same mind, right? If you embrace evil, it will cut off those communications from your thought adjuster, because to God the Father, evil is repulsive, right? But because the Spirit of truth has been poured out on all men, possession in the human being cannot ever happen again. And it states that in the life of Christ. Flat out. So I just wanted to bring that point out. Right? All right. Stephen, would you take the next one?
Mystery monitors are undoubtedly the bestowal of the universal Father, the reflection of the image of God abroad in the universe. A great teacher once admonished man that they should be renewed in the spirit of their minds, that they become new men who, like God, are created in righteousness and in the completion of truth. The adjuster is the mark of divinity, the presence of God. The image of God does not refer to physical likeness nor the circumscribed limitations of material creature endowment, but rather to the gift of the spirit presence of the universal Father in the supernal bestowal of the thought adjuster upon the humble creatures of the universe.
Created, I love this part in this where it says, new men who are created like God, created in righteousness and in the completion of truth. Become a new person. Right? Rodney.
The adjuster is the wellspring of spiritual attainment and the hope of divine character within you. He is the power, privilege, and the possibility of survival, which so fully and forever distinguishes you from mere animal creatures. He is the higher and truly eternal spiritual stimulus of thought, in contrast with the external and physical stimulus, which reaches the mind over the nerve energy mechanisms of the material body.
So it's the difference between spiritual attainment and material, overwhelming yourself with material input, right?
These faithful custodians of future career unfailingly duplicate every mental creation of the spiritual counterpart. They are thus slowly and surely recreating you as you really are, only spiritually, for resurrection on the survival worlds. And all of these exquisite spirit recreations are being preserved in the emergent reality of your evolving and immortal soul, your Urantia self. These realities are actually here, notwithstanding the adjuster is seldom able to exalt these creations sufficiently to exhibit them to the light of consciousness.
So these things are being created and they're real, and you will benefit Yeah, I know. Okay. And as you are the human parent, so is the adjuster the divine parent of the real you. Your higher and advancing self, your better Urantia and future spiritual self. And it is this evolving Urantia soul that the judges and censors discern when they degree your survival and pass you upward to the new worlds and never-ending existence, an eternal liaison with your faithful partner, God the Adjuster. Thank God for the adjusters, because who of us would be qualified to go on to the next level without them, right? Stephen.
Okay. The adjusters are the eternal ancestors, the divine originals of your evolving moral souls. They are the unceasing urge that leads man to attempt the mastery of the material and present existence in the light of the spiritual and future career. The monitors are the prisoners of undying hope, the fonts of everlasting progression, and how they do enjoy communicating with their subjects in more or less direct channels. How they rejoice when they can dispense with symbols and other methods of indirection and flash their messages straight to the intellects of their human partners.
What a wonderful concept, right? Rodney, would you take the last one, please?
You humans have begun an endless unfolding of an almost infinite panorama and limitless expanding of never-ending, ever-widening spheres of opportunity for exhilarating service, matchless adventure, sublime uncertainty, and boundless attainment. When the clouds gather overhead, your faith should accept the fact of the presence of the indwelling adjuster, unless you should be able to look beyond the mist of moral uncertainty into the clear shining of the sun of eternal righteousness on the beckoning heights of the mansion walls of Satania. And this was presented by a solitary messenger of Rivendell.
And that's what we have to look forward to, right? What a wonderful concept. Rodney, would you like to close us in prayer tonight?
All right. Heavenly Father, we give thanks for this opportunity that we have had this evening to meet and to study about the thought adjusters in this wonderful book, the Urantia Book. But Father, we give you the praise, and we pray for guidance and wisdom and insight to discern the truth. We open our minds and hearts and we pray for strength and for the right words to say when we share this revelation with others. Father, we have devoted this time to you, and not our will, but your will be done. In the name of Jesus, Michael and Megadon, amen.
Amen. And next time we will be going over the relation of adjusters to yearly creatures. This will be the third of the 5 papers. Thank you at home for joining us. Please come see us in a minute. Thank you for your presence.